Ladies and gentlemen, I am sad to inform you that I am this generation's teenager. And I must confess, when I'm sitting on a tram, I like to listen to my music on, of course, my smartphone. And when I'm sitting there, I see elders looking at me disapprovingly. And I can just hear them think, oh, technology. Things used to be so much better in our time. We were much more social. And as an extension of our arm, we had a real working tool and not some stress-producing little machine. And look at those earphones. They're a wall for anyone who wants to have social interference. Now, in my head, I would like to answer the following. Dear sir, you are sitting on a tram, one of technology's finest. And do I see the glimpse of a hearing aid? Well, I might be antisocial for listening to my music, but without your hearing aid, it would be much tougher for you to be as social as you are now. I think this little mind conversation has made it clear that none of us can live without the use of technology anymore. What's more is that technology has changed the way we work, the way we think, and the way we live. We have the possibility to be available at all times. However, by being available all the time, a lot of stress can be added to our daily lives. But when we let this pressure take over our lives, it will result into something that, in my opinion, is the worst thing technology has done. We forget to care. We forget to care about our feelings and pay attention to what makes us human. But how did we let technology change our lives so drastically? And why did we not take any precautions? Well, the answer is simple. We could not have known the consequences. In the past few decades, a gigantic wave of technology has crashed onto us. The invention of computer and internet was so innovative and brought a whole new dimension to life. After this, finding, processing, and sharing information became so easy, a whole new world opened up to us. Withholding this creation would mean withholding human growth. And there was no way to test the psychological impact it would have over a few generations. Only now do we start to see the results. However, I believe it isn't too late for mankind to step out of this downward spiral. What we need now is a balance in society. With having more and more technology every day, we also need more people to think about whether or not it is morally responsible to bring out certain technologies. Also, having ethical committees can be a start to teaching us how to use it responsibly. Because, after all, our society is carried by individuals, and it is us who need to remember that technology was made as a tool for help, and that we cannot live for it and lose ourselves in it. Because this is the same as being addicted to drugs. The only problem is it's much harder for us to acknowledge the obsession with technology, as we all use an excessive amount daily. Yet, there are a lot of similarities. When you're addicted to drugs, you end up thinking about it so much, you start to neglect your social bonds and forget about your feelings completely. This is also the case with technology. When I go out for dinner with friends, it isn't even considered rude to check your phone from time to time. But when my friend takes out a phone to refresh her Instagram, I feel neglected and not interesting enough. Because she may be with me physically, but in her mind, all she's thinking of is whether or not YouTube has new videos or if her Tumblr has anything new. When we become obsessed with technology, this is the moment it becomes dangerous. So how do we use technology as much as we like and still remain human? The answer is to find the balance in yourself. Not only physically, but also in your mind. We have to remember to think about our feelings and pay attention that we stay emotional beings in our minds. If we keep the balance between the use of technology and its impact on our lives, and on the other hand, make time in our head and lives for social contact, we don't have to be afraid of the danger Sidney J. Harris once wrote about. The real danger is not that computers will begin to think like men, but that men will begin to think like computers. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech, Elisabeth. How do you find this balance in yourself?
I like to find the balance with sometimes every time I'm on my iPhone or I'm on the computer, I just like to think, well, okay, right now I am on Facebook. And I think knowing your problem is a start of starting to solve it. And sometimes I just like to leave my phone at home when I go to school so that in between breaks, I don't always check it. And sometimes I just switch off the internet so that I don't go on it all the time. And I think it is self-restriction that helps me. Does that answer your question?
But if that doesn't help self-restriction, should we then make laws to restrict the use of technology?
Yes, I think so. And especially with the newer versions of technology, which is, the internet and the computer, where information has become the biggest trait, I think it's very important that we do make laws around it, because it's, as many articles nowadays have written, it's a privacy problem that we have now, and I think law should be made around that. And also for our personal use, that we know where we should draw our lines for, giving ourselves open into the internet, because it is a whole world. And if you cannot find that balance yourself, I think it really could help if we made laws.
When are we obsessed with technology? Where is the line?
I think the line is when you sort of lose view for perspective and you believe that your Facebook or the game that you love or Flappy Bird, if for all I care, is more important than anything else. If you would, for example, leave your schoolwork just to play the game, I think that is where the problem is. When you cannot leave it alone anymore, and sometimes even when you start to show physical conditions if you stay away from it too long, then it's really becoming a problem.
Who would get to decide which technology would get developed and even released, if you would say that we might need to restrict certain technologies from being developed?
Yes, thank you for that question. I think it's, on that part, I think ethical committees can play a huge part. And right now, the ethical committees that we have are more focused on the medical side of everything. And I think now, because, the medical side, I think your own consciousness and your well-being in your mind is also quite medical. So I think we should have more ethical committees and more people thinking about it. And those ethical committees could help the government develop laws. And they should really have a bigger word about that. Thank you.
Yes. In your speech, you were talking about sitting on the tram with your earphones in,
yes.
and then the guy with the hearing aid. Could you explain to me the difference or the similarity between both of them?
Well, both of them are technology, and well, one of them is for recreational matter, and the other one is actually elementary. You need it to hear it. You need it to function normally, as you would say. And the other one, you can live without it, or you should be able to live without it. And I think the similarity, however, nowadays, is that sometimes, especially the youngsters, tend to forget that they should be able to live without their headphones all the time. So in that case, it should be a difference, but now I think it has turned into a similarity.
You said that technology has allowed us to be available at all times, but is there a need for this, and where does it come from?
Well, I believe that the need for this has been developed by us not knowing what has come over us. All of a sudden, when you have all this time that you can spend on your work, and then you start spending more time on your work, and then the people who you work for start expecting you to spend time on your work, and it's a vicious circle that will continue. And I think that's where the need comes from, because you just start being available a little bit more and start checking your mails after 10 o'clock at night, and then the people who you work for will start expecting everyone to do that as well. And I think in order, to stop everyone from doing this, is just to come from higher up, like BMW, the car company. They have restricted their network to be shut down after 9 o'clock and at weekends, so that the people who work for them can work more efficiently, and at home they can spend time with their families.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr.